I know some people want the Packers to make a big splash to elevate their offense, but they can do it with a more minor addition, as long as that addition can get them a bucket.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast to iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet. And the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase of tickets. What time is it? Game Time. I understand the impulse from those that have it. Green Bay needs to make a big move to add a wide receiver one. And to be sure, adding T. Higgins or Davante Adams or DK Metcalf would make the Packers better. They would. They would make the Packers better. I can't dispute that, and I won't dispute that. If the Packers do one of those things, I will go, see, the Packers are better. But it's not necessary. Let me tell you why. There is one specific issue the Packers have offensively, at least when it comes to throwing the ball. And interestingly, the Bills, I would say, somewhat have a similar issue. Remember, I made the case that the Bills were the proof of concept point. And you don't need Josh Allen level play to make this all work. But when you think about, okay, well, what they still lost that game to the Chiefs. What could they use to get past the Chiefs besides an act of God? And I think the answer clearly is a receiver who on 3rd and 8 can get them a bucket. The Ravens' season ended because their bucket getter dropped the ball in the end zone. I mean, they're playing the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game if Mark Andrews doesn't drop the ball in the end zone. He was excellent for them in the second half of the season. A huge part of their offense. And one of the big reasons it was the #1 offense in the league with, of course, Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. But we've seen that offense be spectacular without Derrick Henry and just Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews. And Mark Andrews being really the only passing game weapon that they have. He's not a dynamic player. He's not what Jimmy Graham was in his prime or Travis Kelce was in his prime. Just a really solid player. Now, those teams had ceilings offensively. I think Romeo Doubs is a really nice player. A really nice complementary piece. I think Christian Watson is a really nice player. But at this point, I think it's clear he is the kind of player, he is more like a Jordan Addison, where you go, okay, you put him next to a Davante Adams, a Justin Jefferson. He can kill teams that want to play man coverage. Okay, slide your coverage toward the other guy, give one-on-one opportunities on the backside, and Christian Watson can eat them alive. But I look at a team like the 49ers. Yes, they have by and large better players than the Packers have, right? George Kittle is better than Tucker Kraft. Brandon Ayuk is better than anyone the Packers have. I don't know, this version of Deebo Samuel and Jaden Reed are probably honestly pretty similar in terms of quality. Christian McCaffrey is a better running back than Josh Jacobs, but Josh Jacobs was much more available this year. You look at maybe the 2023 version of Christian McCaffrey. That version certainly better than Josh Jacobs, but there's not a huge difference. And that team didn't rely on George Kittle the same way that they relied on him last year. But you know who the 49ers offense relied on this past season way more because they didn't have Brandon Ayuk. And you know who the 49ers offense relied on before that in 2023, even when they had Brandon Ayuk? Jauan Jennings. Now, why am I bringing up the third receiver for the 49ers? Because Jauan Jennings was a third down converting machine for the 49ers. And Brandon Ayuk is a man coverage beater, but he is really more of a vertical type player. Yeah, he can snap off an inbreaker and a dig and create separation and get a first down on third down. No question. He can do that. But he's not a T. Higgins, Jamar Chase kind of, it's 3rd and 8, just run a slant, just run the comeback. That guy's going to get open. And this is not a slight on Brandon Ayuk. It's also just not how they use him. But you need to run a little option route on 3rd and 6 and convert it. That was Jauan Jennings. That was who was doing that for the 49ers. And that was with the stellar talent that they had. Everydayers, think back to 2023. Before that season, I said, bringing in a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, someone who could just get them a bucket, made sense. But I also understood the theory of just let the young guys go. Just let them see what they can be. And that was when we thought Christian Watson was on his way to stardom. And we were excited. We didn't really know about what Jayden Reed could be. We were excited about Luke Musgrave because the coaches were raving about him. Well, after a full 2023 season and a full 2024 season, we have much better information now than we did then. Someone like DeAndre Hopkins is, first of all, Christian Watson's hurt for at least half the season, in all likelihood. DeAndre Hopkins was not some major target eater for the Kansas City Chiefs. And by the way, I'm not advocating for literally DeAndre Hopkins. But that kind of player, someone who doesn't have to be everything, that doesn't have to be your alpha number one, who doesn't even have to necessarily be an explosive over-the-top kind of guy. I think the Packers have other players who can create that element, especially in the middle of the field where Luke Musgrave and Jayden Reed and even Tucker Kraft can create space in the middle of the field with their speed. Can you win one-on-one on the outside? I mean, I think you'd like Dontavian Wicks to grow into that. He was a very good vertical receiver at Virginia. We saw the details on the Darius Slay interception, not quite there. Player in year 2, like you hope the year 3 breakout, the Davante Adams breakout is there for him. I bring all this up because, yes, someone like Davante Adams could be out there. Yes, someone like T. Higgins could be out there. Yes, someone like DK Metcalf could be out there. But I am looking at these Senior Bowl guys. And I'm looking at Jalen Royals from Utah State. And I'm looking at Jack Besh from TCU. And I'm looking at Jaden Higgins from Iowa State. And I'm going, these guys don't profile as big-time number 1 receivers. My guy, Jason Hirschhorn from, a fighting Illini superstar, Jason Hirschhorn. And I look at his guy, Pat Bryant, bucket getter, had 3 game-winning touchdown catches. You look at the guy who led the NFL, in college football in 3rd and 4th down catches for either first downs or touchdowns. It's Jaden Higgins from Iowa State. 6'3" and change, 215. There was a play at the Senior Bowl where he runs a whip route, and you're just like, at that size, he's got the vertical speed. This is for right now. This is my receiver in this class for the Packers. I think he is potentially your vertical threat with Christian Watson on the shelf for a little bit, but I think on 3rd and 6, 3rd and 8, he can be a guy that can come in and just get you a bucket. Pat Bryant. Just come in on 3rd and 6, run a slant route, body up a corner, and make the play. That's really what you need. You need a Jauan Jennings. I don't think they need more than that. Now, would they benefit from more than that? Yes, sure. Like, I want to make that clear. I'm not saying don't be more aggressive. Like, if they want to get Emeka Ebuga, whose name I probably just butchered, Like, go do that. Go do that. I think he's really good. Like, but you could also just like go sign Chris Godwin if you wanted. If he's not going to be a Buck, we don't know. So while I think, and I want to make this clear, adding high level talent, good across the board, always good. But I don't think it's necessary. And I look at this team and I look at this group of receivers because I don't think there is that high level talent in there. Like it's Travis Hunter, whether you think he's a receiver or not. And then it's really a bunch of 1B or 2 wide receiver 2s. But there's a bunch of them. There's like 10 of them. And I think the Packers on day 2 will be looking at that. And maybe, if they go out and they sign Davante Adams, maybe they don't need to do that. I kind of think they do anyway. And if you want to maximize Jordan Love, I kind of think that's the move, is to go out and get him a bunch of pass catchers. The offensive line is fortified. You've got 5 guys you feel good about. And Jordan Morgan. I don't know what they're going to do with Josh Myers, but they're in really good shape. I don't think you need to go crazy, but you could. You could. What they really need, though, is just someone on 3rd and 6. My kingdom for someone to get open on 3rd and 6. Where if you're past the 50-yard line and it's 4th and 4, you have a play call and a player. In the playoffs, it's players, not plays. I'm gonna talk about this play until I'm blue in the face. 4th and 5 plus territory. It's 1-score game. Philadelphia Eagles, 4th and 5. They throw a go ball, really a transition go ball, like Aaron Rodgers used to call it, to A.J. Brown. I think someone like Jaden Higgins, he may never catch 100 passes. He may never be an all-pro or even a Pro Bowl player, but he is the kind of guy that could do that for this team. Davante Adams is the kind of guy that could do this for this team. So they need a bucket getter. Whether it is a high-end guy, you go out and you get, in the NBA, if we're going to extend this bucket getter metaphor, whether you can get that shooting guard, small forward, who is just constantly going to score for you. Just like all-star level talent. You can go out and you do that. Or there are guys all over the NBA who are just a walking bucket. Cam Thomas for the Nets is the best example. These guys who are just going to come in and the shot is going up. And at the end of games, they can go get you a bucket. Norm Powell for the Clippers. These are role players, but they're professional scorers. The Packers get better if they add someone like that. And of course they get better if they add, the All-Star. The Packers made some coaching decisions. We just talked about them. So here we are. We get to talk about them some more because they made choices. Sean Mannion, DeMarcus Covington. What are they getting? What does it mean? What does it matter? That's next on Locked On Packers. Attending NFL playoff games is an unforgettable experience that brings fans together. My first Packer game, actually, at Lambeau Field was in 1997. It was Packers 49ers in the rain, the Mud Bowl. Edgar Bennett, star. Desmond Howard, star. He was late coming out of halftime because he had to change his jersey. It was so disgusting. And I was, how old was I? Not even 10. And I'll never forget it. I'll never forget the excitement, the way that it looks, the way that I felt being there. Game time can get you into the game so you can experience that, or you can give your friends that experience, your kids that experience, your parents that experience. Game Time Picks makes getting tickets for live events even easier because it filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of nonsense tickets. Ugh, it's the worst. Game Time makes it easy. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first ticket purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NFL, Locked On NFL, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, the lowest price, guaranteed. What time is it? Game Time. So we worried yesterday about the defensive line coaching position, and then we didn't, right? I said, it makes me, the longer this goes, I don't know. And then I talked myself off the ledge and I said, look, Jeff Hafley has made a lot of really good hires and he deserves the benefit of the doubt. The Packers add DeMarcus Covington as their defensive line coach. Now remember, Casey Rogers was a coveted coach for them. He goes to Detroit. It is what it is. They had two guys come in and interview that they didn't ultimately hire. They went with a younger coach. It does, again, make you wonder about penny pinching. Did they just go with the cheapest option? And because I don't know, I'm just saying that does raise that question. I put out the feelers, and I will tell you that I think this is a good hire. I think DeMarcus Covington is a coach who was maybe in over his head a little bit last year as a 35-year-old defensive coordinator. Those are jobs that are usually done. Like the best defensive coordinators are like 55 and totally psychotic. It is just one of those jobs. All of the offensive coordinators it's like the meme. All the offensive coordinators are 30 and well-dressed and well-groomed, and all the defensive coordinators are like old, grumpy, crusty men. DeMarcus Covington, from what I understand, and I reached out to, some folks who know over in New England, and I said, what's the deal with this guy? And they said, well, his players love him. And as long as he doesn't call plays, you're in great shape. That was the feedback almost word for word from both of the people that I talked to. Both were like, great positional coach, great defensive line coach. The guys love him. Christian Barmore, Josh Uche had their best years in large part thanks to him. He was not ready to be a defensive coordinator. It was just it was not good. And look, that can happen. You can get an opportunity and not make the most of it. Matt LaFleur has been a much better coach as a head coach and play caller than he was in Tennessee. You grow over time. When you're a young coach, this is the beauty of it. And I don't think it's a coincidence. He has, for however it went, defensive coordinator experience. He did it for a year. And so you look around, you go, okay, there's guys on this staff who have done that job. We mentioned Derek Ainsley got defensive coordinator buzz, took an interview, and Anthony Campanile just got the Jaguars job. So the Packers are going to have to go through this all over again. You have to hope that you just trust Jeff Hafley enough that he's going to figure out the right guy to get in there, that finances are not impacting this. Certainly, Anthony Campanile is going to a great opportunity. And this is, again, a credit to Jeff Hafley and the staff that he put together to do this in just one season. The Packers now have a hole that they're going to have to figure out the best replacement for. It's getting late in the game. Now, there's a lot of teams still trying to figure this stuff out. So for the Packers, they have to get this one worked out. Interesting that they do have right now, as this is being recorded, they have a QC who's down there in Mobile working with the defensive line. Is that, something that could be an opportunity for the Packers to have an internal promotion here? They've done a lot to try and get these guys reps and opportunities. I'm talking about Wendell Davis. There's other, Sean Duggan is a defensive assistant. They've got some other QC guys that they could slide in here. But look, you put together a good staff. Guys are gonna leave. You have to constantly be turning this stuff over. Someone like Sean McVay has done a great job at finding replacements. Someone like Kyle Shanahan, he was able to just promote D'Amico Ryans, but since then it's been a whirlwind. Now they brought Robert Saleh back. Not every team, even the good teams, are good at riding this carousel. But Covington is someone who, at 35 years old, is an extremely experienced coach. For someone who is only 35, He was a receiver in college, played at Samford, then was a collegiate assistant from 2012 through 2016. And then from 2017 through 2024 was in New England. He's been with the Patriots. So he's been with Bill Belichick, Gerard Mayo, these respected defensive coaches for whatever happened with Gerard Mayo as a head coach. They got to see the Bill Belichick thing up close and personal. And he was the defensive line coach at UT Martin, was the defensive line coach at Eastern Illinois, where he was also the co-defensive coordinator, and then was the defensive line coach in 2020 through 2023, but was the outside linebackers coach first. So has a little bit of experience with both of these guys here. And then was your DC in New England in 2024. For a young coach, that's a lot. And New England is like Green Bay in that they just promote from within, but they're only going to do that if, you're a half decent coach. I think the fact that you have a defensive coordinator, I guess they never really technically gave him that title, but Gerard Mayo gets the head coaching position. And what did he do? He elevated DeMarcus Covington to defensive coordinator. So whether or not that worked out for either of those guys, Gerard Mayo thought enough of him to give him that opportunity. So now Jeff Hafley thinks enough of him to give him this opportunity. I think that that's worth mentioning here. The less interesting one to me is Sean Mannion gets promoted to quarterbacks coach. This was fait accompli the moment he was hired. It seemed obvious to me he was hired to be the Tom Clements replacement. They knew Tom Clements did not have a lot of years left coaching, and so they bring in Sean Mannion, who Matt LaFleur said on the record he was surprised the Bears didn't hire. He went in, Sean Mannion interviewed with the Bears. He got out of the building. The Packers were able to get him, hire him, assistant, and now moves up. And I think, Connor Lewis was another guy he's the assistant quarterbacks coach, but his background is really not in coaching per se. He's learning the coaching ropes. I have no reason to believe that he has not found himself a way to become a quality coach. That you don't just give coaching titles around. You don't just say, oh yeah, he's a coach now. His background is in analytics and game management and front office, even evaluation. It made more sense for someone like Sean Mannion to be the head guy and for someone like Connor Lewis to be the assistant. Maybe that'll change eventually. I don't know. There's certainly a chance, but I think Sean Mannion was brought to Green Bay for this opportunity. A former player, a former quarterback, someone who was a career backup. These guys, for whatever reason, make really good coaches because he's had to fight and scratch and claw and do the work and always be ready. And he doesn't have the physical tools that Jordan Love does, but he did play the game. And I do think that imbues him with a level of gravitas that not every coach has. And he is a different voice in that he's a new coach to Jordan Love. So, Jordan Love came to the NFL and he was with Luke Getsy and Nathaniel Hackett, and it's a different group of coaches, and there's been turnover. And Mannion, especially in terms of the volume of his voice, if you think about it that way, it will now be much louder. And so, yes, this is an internal hire, but it's not like this was someone who was with Jordan Love from the beginning and they're just kind of status quo here. Like, I think Sean Mannion is going to have the opportunity to take this job and run with it because he knows if he does a good job, there's a potential OC job coming. Adam Stenavich, he could be gone this cycle. And so there are opportunities in Green Bay to turn this into head coaching jobs, offensive coordinator jobs that get you head coaching jobs, etc. So I think both of these hires are quality hires. I don't think either of them are like, whoa, like get out of your seat kind of hires. That's okay. That's okay. They're like, Matt LaFleur is still ultimately the quarterback's coach, and Jeff Hafley is still ultimately in charge of your defense. And I think you have to feel like you're in good hands in both of those cases. Now, one of the reasons is that Edgerrin Cooper is incredible, and I don't want you to miss just how incredible. We're going to talk about his unique rookie season next on Locked On Packers. The big game is almost here, and there's no better way to make it even more exciting than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings awarded, Prize Picks makes it fun and simple to get in on the action. Here's how it works. You pick more or less on at least 2 players' stat projections, and if you're right, you could win up to 1,000 times your money. 1,000, one with 3 zeros. Prize Picks even has a free pick for the big game where Patrick Mahomes only needs to throw for 1 yard to win. Pair that with one more correct pick and you cash out. Patrick Mahomes only needs to throw for one. He just needs to make it to the stadium. This week is a great opportunity for you to cash out. Do it. What are you waiting for? Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play that first $5 lineup. And you don't even need to win. You don't even need to win. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Edgerrin Cooper was not a finalist for Defensive Rookie of the Year. And I think the only case for that, because qualitatively, he was one of the best 5 defensive rookies. There's really not a discussion on that, frankly. But it's even better than you think. Zach Cruz, our pal from Packers Wire, went back and looked. And you may recall, I mentioned this on the show, that Edgerrin Cooper had more TFLs this season, tackles for loss, than Jared Verse, a defensive end who was top 10 in the league in pressures, who won, depending on the sites, but Defensive Rookie of the Year. He's the Defensive Rookie of the Year. Edgerrin Cooper played like half the snaps that Jared Verse did. 13 tackles for loss. 500 defensive snaps. 14 games. 13 tackles for loss. What Zach found is the last 22 rookies to do this. So it's basically in this century, there have been 22 rookies who have had 13 tackles for loss or more. Okay? You ready for this list? Yes, I'm going to read all 22. Edgerrin Cooper, of course. Micah Parsons, Nick Bosa, Max Crosby, Bradley Chubb, Joey Bosa, Aaron Donald, Khalil Mack, Levante David, Von Miller, Aldon Smith, J.J. Watt, Muhammad Wilkerson, Ndamukong Suh, Clay Matthews, Brian Arakpo, Kamarion Wimbley, D'Amico Ryans, DeMarcus Ware, Jason Babin, Kevin Williams, Dwight Freeney. Did you crash your car hearing that list? Every single player on that list, except Kamarion Wimbley, was a Pro Bowler in their career. And at least half, I didn't check. I would say at least half, if not more, were all pros at some point in their career. Only 2 off-ball linebackers are on this list. It's Levante David, one of the best linebackers of his generation, and D'Amico Ryans, who is like the 3rd or 4th best Texan ever. And is also now a great coach. This is a bonkers list. This basically says if you do what Edgerrin Cooper did as a rookie, you are a star player, with one exception. And Kamarion Wimbley went on to have a nice NFL career. I think you could, the second worst player on this list is Jason Babin, who I believe was a multi-time Pro Bowler, who at various points in his career was one of the more feared pass rushers in the NFL. So, if that's what we're talking about, he was an All-Pro in 2011 and made a Pro Bowl in 2010 and 2011. Second team All-Pro in 2011. Second team All-Pro. 18 sacks in 2011, had 12 and a half sacks in 2010 for 2 different teams. Now, he was not consistently that over the course of his career, but he's a pass rusher. For Edgerrin Cooper to be putting up these kind of tackle for loss numbers is wow. Do you know he had as many tackles for loss in his rookie season as J.J. Watt? As in Ndamukong Suh? Yeah. That's how good he was in 14 games. In 4 starts. The only other guy who had fewer than 8 starts, Dwight Freeney had 8, Hall of Famer, is Alden Smith. And come on, he was a de facto starter. He just wasn't a starter. He played all 16 games, had 14 sacks that rookie season. And Zach did the numbers. If you look at it on a per snap basis, Edgerrin Cooper was almost twice as efficient in creating those tackles for loss as Lavonte David. Think about that. He was a splash play machine. And by that last month of the season, he was, I think you can make the case, one of the 2 or 3 best linebackers in the NFL, period. As a rookie who, couldn't even get on the field early in the season. And I don't know what happened. The light bulb, he got hurt. That November stretch where he got hurt, and he came back and the light bulb had just gone off. And it's a similar thing happened with Quay Walker, which is in the middle of the season. This was before he got hurt. It was oh, he just gets it. It was he's starting to believe from the Matrix. And I don't know where it goes from here. You could tell me next year the Packers have the best duo of linebackers in the league, and I would not be surprised. And it's also possible that they have the best duo of linebackers in the way that the Vikings have one of the best duos of receivers in the NFL, where it's Justin Jefferson and Addison's solid to good, but that's Justin Jefferson. Not like the Bengals where it's Jamar Chase is killer and T. Higgins is also really one of the 12 or 15 best receivers in the league. I don't know if Quay Walker can do that. I do think Edgerrin Cooper can play the best linebacker in the NFL because I saw him do it for 6 weeks. I saw him have one of the historic productive rookie seasons on a crazy low number of snaps. However high you are on Edgerrin Cooper, I don't know that you are high enough on him. All right, back next week, we are going to be at the Super Bowl. We already have, I can't tell you, can't spoil it. We already have some Packers lined up to join the show. Some other people, maybe some legends of the game, always some future rookies to talk to. Last year, I thought maybe between Rome Odunze and got to talk to Brendan Rice, and there might be a future Packer in there somewhere. There wasn't, but you never know. Ran into Christian Watson randomly at the Super Bowl 2 years ago, got him on the show. So you never know who you're going to run. John Runyon Jr. just happened. That was not booked. He just happened to be walking around, grabbed him. Romeo Doubs, we didn't book that. I just grabbed him and said, hey, let's talk. He said, cool. That might happen again. You never know. So a lot of fun to be had on the show next week. Not on the Monday show. I'll be traveling. So we'll have something in the can for that. But then the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday shows will all have stuff from Radio Row. Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky and all the social medias, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on all those as well, plus TikTok. Subscribe on YouTube, wherever you get podcasts, so you can stay locked on Packers.